morning. Good morning. It's interesting, all the cloud we had the last few days, and now we have a clear sky. Not so many birds here this morning. We had hundreds the last few days. Lord, let every nation on earth will adore you. So it's Psalm 72. What does it mean to adore God? Lord, every nation on earth will adore you. Who is God? What's God's essence? How do we adore God? Look at the reflection, the big strong one coming in here on the left of the screen, but there's another faint one coming in on the right of the screen, reflected from the windows in Tiberias. O God, with your judgment endow the king, with your justice the king's son. He shall govern your people with justice and your afflicted ones with judgment. Imagine a king that would say that he believes in God and adores God and maybe does some liturgical gesture, some official ritual, but he doesn't judge with justice, he doesn't govern with justice. So adoration is not just doing the liturgy, doing some ritual, using incense. There's something more about being in the image and likeness of God. Made in his image and likeness, coming from him. I wonder if one of the biggest acts of adoration of God is really to have that sense of justice and goodness to others. Because how can we say, God, we love you, but we step on your image, we insult your image, we hurt your image and likeness? Justice shall flower in his days, and profound peace till the moon be no more. How the earth longs for this, how humankind longs for this. Lord, every nation on earth will adore you. This is our prayer. It's our desire. It's interesting that in this Psalm 72 we have the phrase, may he rule from sea to sea, from the river to the ends of the earth. Lord, every nation on earth will adore you. And so in all of that space, from river to river, from sea to sea, in all of that space, every nation will adore you. That means every person will be treated with justice and goodness. What a vision, you know. This is hundreds and hundreds of years before Christ in this psalm. We're in the first reading in John's letter, first letter, chapter 4. And he says, "Beloved, let us love one another because love is of God." So then justice, in a certain sense, does the right and the good, but maybe we could keep people at arm's length, so to say, emotionally, effectively. But God is love. Everyone who loves is begotten by God and knows God. So let's say justice is kind of the basic vocabulary, but actually the full flowering is love. And we know that because of the brokenness of humanity as well, that love has another word, mercy. And maybe just before mercy it has patience. But then another word can jump out at us when we continue to read the gospel. And here we are just up the road here, or up the lake here. So for those of you who have been pilgrims here, maybe you remember visiting the so-called Jesus boat, which was dredged out of the mud here over 30 years ago. And you can see the place where that is kept in Ginosar. You can see that cement tower towering over the trees there in the center of the screen. To the right of that palm tree, I'll bring it even closer. So just to the right of the palm tree, you can see that big cement tower. And that's the building where the dredge boat is. And then you go up the lake shore a little bit more and you're in Tabka, the multiplication of the loaves. And that's where we are today with this gospel passage. And that's where love becomes concrete, becomes compassion for those in need. And the interesting thing is, you know, when we contemplate Christmas, and we're still in the Christmas season until Sunday, liturgically, when we contemplate the newborn Christ child, and we are overwhelmed by the love that God gave his only Son, what's interesting in this story today in the gospel is that it's not just something outside of us to contemplate, which is marvelous in itself, but it's for us to get involved in the same dynamic, not just logic, in the same dynamic, in the same movement of giving, of self-giving, of taking on the needs of others and the burdens of others. This is a deserted place and it is already very late. And the people are like sheep without a shepherd. And he was teaching them many things. And he said, the disciples want to dismiss the people so that they don't become a burden and a problem. And what does Jesus say? He says, give them some food yourselves. And they don't do very much. They provide 5 loaves and 2 fish. They have to start thinking, where do we get food? We can't do it. First of all, they're aware of their lack of ability to do what Jesus is asking. And the next thing is, they notice something, but that's helpless and hopeless, like 5 loaves and 2 fish. What's that for so many? That just doesn't cut it. If we needed to get enough, we'd have to get enough money, 200 days' wages, almost a year's salary, to look after this. And then there was the little guy there with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And at that point, with that bit of generosity of that little boy, Jesus takes over. But what he's actually doing is he's teaching the disciples to get involved, to take responsibility, to do something for the deaf, to do something for the blind, to do something for the people who were hurt, who have a virus, who are sick, the people who are maybe morally also broken, to do something for them, not to wash our hands. Again, am I my brother's keeper? That's an amazing line, in chapter 4 of Genesis. Am I my brother's keeper? And that's the question here. Let's take care of those with us, of those around us. And in many places in the Western world, there is also real need. And I heard about homelessness, even in a major city in the center of the Midwest, out near the Rockies. And a very good friend wrote me an email saying it's hard to walk on the streets there, and we prefer to go and live at the wife's home place originally in another city because it's becoming unbearable. And so there is also big real need, but in the most cases the needs in the West are emotional. Attention, kindness, patience, helping to overcome conflicts internally in the family, at work. There's so many ways that we look out there and we see people in need, many people in need. It's amazing how depression is one of the biggest and most lethal illnesses in our time. And we have accomplished so much. People are deeply depressed. And maybe because of lack of attention to the basics, the inability to communicate, to share the troubles of the heart, the unavailability of people who are trusted with whom to share these concerns and cares and hurts, maybe addictions of different kinds. So there's a huge field of compassion, even in the advanced Western world, that's open to us, where we can become part of that deep adoration of God, taking care, being a keeper for my brother and sister. Just some thoughts from today's readings. I have these birds squeaking over me. I can't see them. Maybe it's because I have my head is covered with the hood. Oh, there they are, right above here. Look at this. And there we got the front of it now. They were directly above my head, and I could hear them, but I couldn't see them. So there you got a glimpse of them. So I leave you with that, people. Let's pray for each other so that we can have that glimpse of God and adore Him in truth, in the respect and love we share with all people, everyone who bears God's image and likeness. And especially through prayer. We shouldn't underestimate the power of prayer for people in need. But also to roll up our sleeves and do something to, even if we only have 5 loaves or 2 loaves and 1 fish, to do something, to be concrete in the love, very concrete, practical. That's real adoration of God. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators.